It's that time of the year again. The Apple iPhone 5S is here, and we're taking a look at it in the Phone Dog offices and seeing how it compares to Android devices on the market. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and in 2013, can Apple's flagship device, which looks a lot like the Apple iPhone 5, pack enough features to get people to switch from Android either back to iPhone or to iPhone for the first time? It's the full video review of the 5S, and we'll find out right now. Oh, the iPhone. You come around every year and you change stuff up, and for the most part, you're a game changer. The Apple iPhone came out in 2007. It revolutionized the smartphone space. Now, all these generations later, the 5S and the 5C, which obviously is not pictured here, are both available through Apple. The question is, Android and even Windows Phone 8 to an extent have gotten to a point now where they can compete. Fantastic App Store on the Android side, nice ecosystem on the Microsoft side. So as we go into this, a lot of the focus is going to be on not only how this device performs and how it looks, but in 2013 what the landscape looks like. Because more than ever, and I say this every year with every iPhone review, but more than ever, you've got options and you got the choice to get what matters most to you. So, in 2010, for example, let's say you used Gmail and you wanted an Android device, but they were stuttery, they were laggy, and you went with this for the fluidity. Well, 2013, there are plenty of Android devices that are fluid. So the question and the argument, if you will, becomes less and less of, this one's distinctly better, this one's distinctly better, and more so what matters to you in your device. Before we get too far into the Apple iPhone 5S review, I want to give special thanks to my partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like the 5S for use in our One Paw Band-Aid giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to get your 5S on AT&T, Sprint, or T-Mobile, or even Verizon, you'll walk out working. They'll make sure your email, your web, your contacts, your settings are good to go, so when you walk out the door on whatever carrier you buy it on, you'll walk out working. Let's jump right into the Apple iPhone 5S review, and we'll start with hardware. And I'm giving you a tech rundown here. This thing has an Apple A7 CPU. It's rumored to be a dual-core CPU that's clocked somewhere around 1.3 gigahertz dual-core. So keep that in mind. A7 CPU, M7 coprocessor, 4-inch Retina display here as well, 640 by 1136 pixels, 3.95 ounces on this device. 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD recording. Same beautiful metal build quality that's really polarizing. People either love it because it's beautiful looking or hate it because when you drop it, the glass shatters pretty easily. Depends on what you like. Apple's iOS 7 here as well. You've got the fingerprint sensor down here at the bottom. Doubles up as a home button, and this is available at AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon for $199 as a starting point. 16, 32, 64 gigabytes of storage configuration options, and you've got space gray, which is this one, you've got gold, and you've got white. Whew, that's a mouthful of specs. Let's take a look at the hardware here. So you can see hardware-wise, this thing looks virtually identical to the Apple iPhone 5, which I happen to have right here. It looks identical with the exception, obviously, this is the white iPhone 5. The color has slightly changed from space gray. It was black on the iPhone 5. It's space gray over here. The metal and the colors around it have changed slightly, and then obviously you'll see between the 5 and the 5S a slight difference here in terms of the flash on the respective cameras. Now, even though the 5S has an 8 megapixel camera, Apple's done some significant stuff to change the camera under the hood. We'll talk about that a little bit more in part 2. But as you can see here, safe for that on the back, and then obviously safe for the button here at the bottom. Fingerprint sensor here. You can see the home button still has the little home logo there on the Apple iPhone 5. You do not get that over on the 5S, and I'll try to bring it up close so you can take a closer look. It's a little bit of a different looking button, and you know what? I'm going to draw a diagram for you because I love to draw. So we're going to bring this over here. The home button on the 5S is very much like this, kind of like that, whereas the home button on the 5 is much more of a curved button like that. So keep that in mind. Looks like I'm winking at you. Yeah. Anyway, you can see between the 5S and the 5. So specs-wise, nothing to scoff at even in 2013. The 4-inch display, it's the same Retina display, and for a lot of people, it's a little bit too small. People are increasingly preferring 4.5 inches to 5 inches as their sweet spot. You see that with the Galaxy S4, the HTC One, the Lumia devices, all which start at 4.5 and go in the case of, for example, the G2, which I would argue is kind of the high end, or in terms of size, the high end spectrum of the display size market right now for a sweet spot, 4.5 to about 5.2 inches. So for some people it may be too small, but as you can see here, it really is a nice device. It's pocketable, it's easy to fit in the hand, FaceTime camera on the front, is in exactly the same place. Now again, LTE on all 4 carriers, and this is coming very soon to regional carriers. So you can see here Apple's iOS 7, and we've talked about it before on the site, but there are some pretty substantial changes in the iPhone 5S. Well, both actually, I should say, both iOS 7 and iPhone 5S. So there are some things you get, obviously, like the fingerprint scanner you don't get in the 5 and more. So we'll go ahead and hash through those one by one in the video. So you can see, first of all, looks pretty different here. It's a little bit of a different look and feel. You can see the notifications bar here is slightly different. You've got today, I've got missed here, and I can scroll up and down and see my calendar. 2 events scheduled, and the first one starts at 10 p.m. That is my reminder to take out the cat litter so my fiance doesn't get mad at me. True story. Tuesday, September 24th, you can see the calendar here. For whatever reason, I don't have my work, actually I know why I deleted it. I don't have my work calendar synced up on this one right now. And you can see even in the network identifier here, it looks different with the circles as well, and then LTE instead of a customized, let's say, AT&T logo or Verizon logo. So you've got that, but then you also have notifications, or I should say quick access buttons from the bottom here just by swiping up. And you got quick access to airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, do not disturb, and portrait lock or orientation lock, where I can lock it up in portrait mode and not have to worry about it shifting when I'm laying down and watching or holding the device sideways. Brightness here, as you can tell, music shortcuts, AirDrop as well, which we'll talk about in part 2, and then shortcuts to flashlight on the back, which you can see right there. You got this over here, timer, calculator, and camera as well. So otherwise, kind of a similar look and feel here out of the box, and you can see I moved the contacts. You do have that extras folder, and the folders themselves look different, as you can clearly tell, but I moved the contacts out and back over into my usual place when I'm working with an iOS device. And you can see the icons are still here. Maps is obviously Apple's in-house map solution, which we'll take a look at here in just a bit. But you got weather as well, and a lot of these icons and a lot of these applications as well have been substantially overhauled. You can see the weather app. It's one of my favorite new applications in iOS 7. It really does look beautiful. Mimics obviously Yahoo weather, as you can see here, and it's actually a pretty cool day in Dallas. It's only 84 degrees. Compare that to what we were seeing a couple of weeks ago, well into the 3-digit temperatures, and you can see we've got a nice week ahead. Wednesday only 91, Thursday only 93, and then back down into the 80s and even 70s on Sunday. That is crazy. And of course, Cupertino here as well in New York and more, and I can scroll through the individual weather and see hour by hour there when it's raining or doing something different in terms of weather. You see it here on the home screen. Now, even within that, let's take a look at this. Also, you can see multitasking is completely changed here as well, kind of adopting a WebOS card style look and feel. So I've got my home screen here. All I have to do is swipe up to remove the application I don't want, and I'll go ahead and do that. So for example, I can just swipe through and remove these step by step by step, and then I can get right back to business, important business. So got that right there. A little bit different. Again, pulling a card from the WebOS, pun intended, pulling a card from the WebOS playbook. That's a pretty good joke for a Tuesday afternoon. I think so. And you can see my messages here. So obviously this looks much different. And just to see 7182, for example, just a sample text message I had, you can see the keyboard here is different as well. Same iOS look and feel overall, but colors are changed. And we'll go in here and take a quick look. Now for me, I'm used to, my sweet spot personally is 5 inches display-wise, so I find this to be a little bit small to type on. But one thing the iPhone does incredibly well, and that's no different in iOS 7, fantastic auto correction. So I'll say the Quick Brown Fox is happy that it is Tuesday, and I can easily type on this device without any lag or issues. So very quick and easy to type on. The display, yes, is on the small side, but still autocorrect is second to none on iOS 7. The downside is you can't install third-party keyboards here. You're relegated to using Apple's keyboard. So if you don't like it, you're out of luck, unfortunately. But portrait landscape here faster than ever, thanks to the A7 CPU and the M7 coprocessor. And you've got shortcuts here, as you would expect, to camera to take pictures. And again, just the overall font, I mean, the overall iOS 7 within itself is flatter, and you can see the font has changed as well in this. So a little bit different in terms of the look and feel, but overall kind of the same experience. It just looks different all around. So you can see here, for example, airplane mode. All this stuff was in iOS 6. It's just been tweaked and changed a little bit to make it look different for iOS 7. So you can see the icons are different and more. Keep it locked right here for part 2. We'll pick it up by talking about the fingerprint ID or fingerprint sensor down here at the bottom, one of the distinguishing features of the iPhone 5S. We'll go into the camera and take a look at that, and we'll do some speed tests to test AT&T's 4G LTE network connectivity, and we'll round it out by talking about battery life. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for part 2 of the iPhone 5S video review.